Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what's going on with Bitcoin for the day. So, got a nice wick down. Didn't quite take this low right here. You hit about 62.2. So I think that was, that's pretty close to around 62 100. I told you guys to look out for. It did kind of front run my level that I was watching at 62.109. So, this order block is being well respected. We are seeing a lot of sensitivity, bouncing off of it basically. So that's a very good sign for the bulls, right? Now, the only thing is that does concern me is the fact that if we do get the bounce today, just keep in mind that it's still Monday, so there is a high chance of a reversal today, um, or I should say for the remainder of the week. So it may not happen necessarily by this evening, but if we do get the pump up, there is a chance that we get rejected off of one of these points up here. So whether it be 64,000, whether it be up, closer to 65,000 to make the high of the week, that is my only concern. Now, if we are in a very bullish environment, what's going to happen is basically this would be our tail for the week. So this would be enough of a drop for the tail of the week, and we're just going to keep expanding upwards. So it's really going to depend on what type of environment we're in right now. Okay. Um, it's definitely hard to say at this point. It is a decent sign that we got a drop into Monday, but the only problem is that I just don't want to see it being expansive to the upside just yet until we get more into Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. That being said, like I said, if we are in a or getting into a more bullish environment, there is a potential that we could see the reversal happen today as well. Let's take a look at the 10 hour here. Those are the time frames I'm watching quite closely. So, what you're going to want to see as a bullish sign is you definitely want to see us close above on these bigger time frames, the 63,322 level. That will be quite crucial for us to be able to close above. So, watch for that to happen. On the 8 hour, you also want to see this as well. So, again, guys, tight moving averages, right? 8 hour, 10 hour. I keep on talking about that. That can basically cause a really nice follow through to the upside, right? So it's really going to depend on, you know, as far as bias goes, we're going to have to, really get above 64,000 in order to be, more on the bullish side, right? And we have to close candles on the 8 hour and the 10 hour above 64,000. If we're able to do that, even if we're able to close one candle above this, there is a potential that that might be enough to actually get that expansive move upward. But there could be a lot of resistance here. We're going to plot our Monday midnight open. We're going to get rid of this line right here, and we're actually going to plot the Monday midnight open and see where that's at. But it's really going to depend on if we can get above this 64,000, 63,940, 64,000 ish area, whether or not we can have this really expansive move to the upside. Okay. Taking a look at your 4 hour, still below the 200 MA. 6 hour, unfortunately, well, actually, fortunately enough, it could potentially close above the 200. However, you still have that death cross coming down. So we could potentially get rejected off of weekly open, which is around 63,546. There's a possibility that we do test it again if we get rejected off of here, but there's a potential that it could also be a bearish week as well. So just kind of be aware of that. This is a very huge and strong candle. So, again, there's a potential that, this is a draw on liquidity to the upside. So just be very cognizant of what's happening right now. For the 1 hour, you're getting above the 21, the 50, the 80. You're kind of gonna start getting those moving averages tight again. So definitely can cause an expansive move to the upside. Not necessarily that's going to happen, but it is looking halfway decent right now. Okay. However, it is Monday, and Monday is known for false moves, for reversals, that type of thing. So just be well aware of that. Taking a look at the 30-minute, you are getting rejected off of the 200 as of right now. Again, that's nothing major though. You could easily get above it, but your 21 is far away and your 50 is far away from the 200. So a lot of consolidation is going to have to happen here because of this strong candle in order for us to see that move to the upside. Okay. 15-minute, kind of same thing. You know, you might have to come down a little bit to get that 21 and 50 to cross over properly. You do have the 80 and 100 close by, so that's a pretty decent sign, but you do need these moving averages to kind of catch up here. So you could possibly see some sort of consolidation as of right now, right underneath this resistance line. Um, let's see, for the 10-minute, you're kind of flagging out a little bit, so this could turn into some sort of bullish flag. You did pump first, so that, definitely could bring you down. Let's go ahead and draw out Monday midnight open. So let me go and drop into the 1 minute. Let's go to Monday and then midnight Eastern Standard Time here and see where that closed. So we closed kind of bullishly on this here. So this closed at 62,880. So I'm going to draw my line right here, and then we're going to make this blue. This is always our color for our Monday midnight open. Okay, 62,880. So as long as you can stay above 62,880, you're going to basically be bullish, right? If now also we're gonna have to go get above the weekly Sunday midnight open, so or sorry Sunday 5 p.m. PST open, so that's going to be 63,546. So basically, you're kind of in a range with these opens here. The Monday midnight's at 62,880, and then the Sunday 5 p.m. PST open is at 63,546. Um, so in order to have a bullish bias, obviously you're gonna have to maintain the 62,880. This could be used as a support line, so don't be surprised if we come back down here and retest this before getting a further move to the upside if it wants to. This could also be a potential good entry for a long if you didn't catch the move this morning just yet. If you do have basically, if you have a sense of direction that we're going to keep going up, I would definitely say that around here would be a nice entry point, especially because it also would be testing monthly open as well. So just be aware of that. This could be kind of a good area as a support area for right now. So this could be a good entry, not financial advice. And then obviously getting above the weekly open is going to be extremely important for the continuation to the upside. If you're going to want to visit, the 65K range, 66K range, you're obviously going to have to maintain weekly open, use it as support, and then flip it, right? So that's kind of what I'm expecting, guys, for right now. As far as levels go, and we'll match these up as we always do with liquidity. Maintaining that 62,400 area was crucial, and we did. The only problem is now you have a double bottom down here, so not the best sign. I really, double bottoms do reverse price for a while. I just am not a huge fan of them because I know that they usually get, railroaded. So one target could potentially still be that 62,109 if we were to get that move to the downside. Um, Another one obviously is going to be if we lose that 62,109, I'm still going to target this area. 61,124 to 60,622 would be in the cards if you were to lose 62,109. Now, the ideal play is going to be that we keep this 62,109, we kind of wipe out this double bottom, and we get a stronger bounce if it needed to drop down more. Now, to the upside. So, to the upside, we're going to target double tops and, basically see them get railroaded if we were to keep moving up. So that being said, I want to see 63.6, 63,940 being taken first. And then if we can, start getting into 65,186, then 65,740. All of these lines up here are still relevant. And I want you guys to know that. So basically, these are all double top targets here to the upside. So if we were to get the bullish move to the upside for this week, I would basically, for right now, be targeting this double top around 65,186. That seems more realistic to me. It's a few $1,000s away. It just depends on how violent we're going to get with this move. We could even potentially get up to 66,482 up here, more to this double top. But it's really going to depend on, how violent price wants to move, right? All right, guys, so that's what I'm seeing in the charts for right now. None of the levels really are changing. It's just more so a question of time where we're going first, right? So we could very easily, like I said, test weekly open and then drop. The Sunday, 5 p.m. PST weekly open and then drop from there. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our liquidity here. So taking a look at liquidity, we don't really have, unfortunately, we don't really have the bridge to get us up into the 65-ish range just yet. I could definitely see us take out this double top right here on 63.8, but it doesn't look like we're going to really have that much of a move more to the upside. It's definitely possible. We do have always some liquidity here. It's just that we don't visually see it with the 25x pool. The 10x, shows a little bit here around 66,000, but again, would have to be taken out first. You're not really seeing anything with the 5x or, even the 3x. It does show that there's a potential move to the downside. So, like I said, guys, and for the month of August, what we do want to see if we're going to have a bullish month is we do want to see this week to be bearish, technically. Because if this week is bearish and we can make our low of the month, it kind of sets up the next couple of weeks in August to possibly get that follow through, right, to the upside. So ideally, I hate to say it, but ideally we kind of want to see this taken out or at least, respect it as a point of a support point, right? So I would still be targeting this potentially for this week, especially if we're going to have a bullish month. So it does make sense that right now Monday is pumping, and maybe we get that reversal for the rest of the week. Now, if we get that, just know that yes, it's going to suck to see Bitcoin drop, but you're going to see a potential follow through in the weeks to come to the upside and possibly even, starting to test the 67,000 order block that we've been targeting for a long time. So that's kind of the timing perspective that I see price, potentially wanting to respect. Doesn't have to, but again, at the beginning of the month, we don't want to see bullish action at the beginning of the month per se, and we are getting that right now. We're getting that at the beginning of this week, so don't be surprised if this is a fake out and we start moving back down to the downside. Taking a look at your 1 hour, so let's see kind of where liquidity is here. Um, you did have some, up to about 63, 132. We basically ate all of that up and kind of surpassed it. We are getting some issues around 63, 351, this support line that I drew, which is around that 63, 330 that I have on my other chart. You have some to the upside with the 50x, even to the most part to get rejected off of the 200 on the hourly. Whether or not it's going to do that is a bigger question, though. It could stop right here. This is going to maybe be a strong resistance line, but it really is going to depend on whether or not I think this might even be a bearish 786 here, and it is. So whether or not this bearish 786 plays out is going to be a bigger question. Because it did hit, the 786 level, and now we're kind of retracing. So we'll see whether or not we can get past it. And if we can, just, you can start looking out for a rejection off of the, like I said, the 200 on the hourly. Let's take a look at your 15-minute. So your 15-minute, definitely with the 50x does show that there's some more liquidity to the upside. As long as you stay above the 15-minute 200, you have a chance for a potential continuation up. If you lose this 15-minute 200, that would basically give me more pause and questioning whether or not this was a draw on liquidity and a bearish 786 retracement will happen. Now this, obviously is alluding to the fact that we could at any given point in time just roll over down into here. So, just be aware of that. Obviously, the more patient play, if you're going to play along, is going to be waiting until we at least take out 61.8-ish area. It looks like 61.6-ish area. But again, my target is still going to be down here in the 61K-ish range to 60,000-ish range. I'm still going to be targeting this red area at the very least. So that's what I'm seeing as of right now for your liquidity. It does look like you potentially get that continuation, but it's all going to depend on whether or not we're going to have a bearish week. If we have a bearish week, we could see a continuation to the upside for right now, taking out this double top at the very least. And then, obviously come Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we see that reversal to the downside. Um, before I leave you guys today, after we look at the simple map, we are going to look at Forex Factory as well to see if, what type of Fed events to expect for this week. As far as your order book goes, so let's take a look at that through open market. You can see that we do have one order to the upside around 64,282. That's a pretty decent sized order. Whether or not we can get past it is a bigger question. You do have a decent sized order to the downside around 61.5, so that does align with that red area of liquidity that we just looked at. Um, So it's really going to depend on how we consolidate here, guys. Watch the next hour to see, what price does. If we're able to, like I said, consolidate above the 15-minute 200 MA, that does give a sign that we could possibly get follow through, especially if we get the golden cross from the 21 crossing over. So anyways, guys, though that's kind of what I'm seeing when it comes to the actual order book and then also our liquidity. Let's take a real quick look at our simple map. So the simple map, let's take a look and see what levels we can watch for today. So we are getting close to a first potential resistance point on the smaller time frames. I would be kind of targeting around 63.5 as our first resistance point that we could get rejected off of. On a positive note, we don't really have a lot of liquidity to the downside, so not that many longs built up. This could definitely fall through though and hit about 62,220 to 62,190 to possibly act as support, kind of aligning with that 62,109 level. If we were to get past 63,510, the next level I would be targeting is 63,780. And then if you can get past 63,780, you could potentially get all the way up here to about 64,650 as your next target. So kind of some levels to watch out for. You could really roll through if you can get past 63,780. Okay, that's a really good sign. So gave you some levels to the upside, to from basically the upside perspective, the downside perspective. Taking a look at the swing time frames. So your swing time frames, let's take a look and see what's going on here. Yeah, so kind of the, exact same thing that we see on the smaller time frames, right? 63,510 you're going to have to get above, then it's about 63,750, but if you can get above 63,750, you basically, or 780 I should say, you could really just literally roll through all of this liquidity to about 64,650 before you have issues, and 64,710. And then if you get above there, you can even roll even further and get above to about 65.3, right? So um, definitely some really big, follow through areas that could potentially happen to the upside. If we are bearish for the week, expect this to be a continuation move Monday through Tuesday. I would expect, either today or tomorrow to make our high if we are going to be bearish, and then for the follow through to the downside. 62,220 and obviously 62,190 would be our first support points to the downside. After that, it would be basically around 62,000, 61,890, 61,740, and then if you lose 61,740, you basically just completely fall through to about 61,140, which is around that 61K area. So, just some levels to keep in mind for right now, guys. Again, I'm not 100% sure just yet what price is going to do. But for right now, I do have more of a bullish bias when it comes to the smaller time frames, at least. Let's take a real quick look at the Forex Factory and see kind of what we can be expecting here for this week. So it looks like we had ISM manufacturing PMI, definitely caused some of the volatility today, so that's a good sign. You have unemployment for, Tuesday. I guess that's for New Zealand dollar though, so that doesn't really matter. You have JOLTS though for Tuesday. So JOLTS is a USD event. Orange folder, so could potentially give us some movement, not as much as potentially today though. Um, let's see, USD, you have ISM services, non-farm employment change. You have unemployment claims on Thursday. And then you have non-farm employment change and unemployment. So Friday's going to be a big day, guys. Like Friday's going to be a very volatile day. You have non-farm employment change, unemployment rate, employment change, unemployment rate. This is going to be a big day. This is our biggest day this week. Besides, obviously Monday had one red folder, but um, definitely pay attention to Friday. So Friday, this is what I'm expecting if we are going to have a bearish week is um, basically, like I said, Monday and Tuesday make our high. Wednesday, Thursday, basically get a continuation to the downside, and then potentially Friday, make our bottom and have a bounce up, and basically, like I said, form the bottom and have some sort of retracement. That is the potential for a bearish week for this week, and then for a bullish week, what you're going to want to see is today we're gonna have to stop pumping, unfortunately. So, I don't want to see the continuation today. I want to see more consolidation. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday get that follow through to make the high, and then Thursday, Friday you can do a little bit of a retracement. That would be more of a bullish week. But again, guys, it's really going to depend on how the month forms, and if the month is going to be more, like I said, more bearish, this would be the week that you do want to see violence to the upside, unfortunately. So. Just be aware of that. If we do get a large pump, this week, there is a very good chance that this month could be bearish. All right, guys, that being said, that is what I have for you for today. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later on this evening. Take care.